Hello everyone, welcome to the Book Graveyard, vintage genre fiction book channel, where we celebrate that old paper of yesteryear, the pulpy stuff. I got an extra pulpy episode today. We're going to be talking to Tim Cottrill. Tim Cottrill just released this in December 2025, and it's the Bookery's Guide to Pulps and Related Magazines. This is a pulp price guide. Now when I say pulp, I'm talking literal pulp magazines. I know that we use that term loosely around here, calling paperbacks pulp, etc. But this is actual pulp magazines. And what's cool about this video, is not only does Tim live in the same city that I do, but he owns the bookstore, the Bookery that I always mention on here, where I'm always getting lots of cool books from. It's located in Fairborn, Ohio. It's a suburb of Dayton, Ohio, which is where we are located. So we had the rare opportunity to be able to drive 15 minutes down the street and go talk to Tim in person. We talk about the price guide. We take a tour around the shop. He shows us how he grades the pulps, and just general conversation. And it's a lot of fun and it's very informative. So I just wanted to introduce this. I got off to a kind of a quick start. I was a little excited, so I wanted to put a little more information out there. Tim's been doing the price guide since 2001. He's very knowledgeable. This is the brand new editions. Brand new edition is the third edition of it, third update. So this is available from Morania Press, I believe I'm saying that right, which is owned by Ed Hulse. You may have seen Ed Hulse's name on many nonfiction books about vintage genre fiction. I know on my shelf over there I have quite a few with his name on it, and that is available directly through him or through Amazon. So I think that everyone's going to enjoy this conversation, have fun checking out the old pulps, taking a look around the shop, and yeah, here we go. Hello everyone. Today we have Tim Cottrill here with us. He recently just published the Bookery's Guide to Pulps here, which is a price guide for pulp magazines. So I was curious, how does one get to that point? Like, what's the origin story of how you got involved in the pulps?
Oh, kind of accidentally, I guess. It's like anything else in the store. You would get comics come in, books, pulps, just in different collections. And there was plenty of information on everything else. Baseball cards had multiple guides. Comics had several guides, but mainly the Overstreet. There was information out there on just all kind of coins. There was never anything out on pulps. Mm-hmm. I mean, there were individual books people had done about pulps, but there was no comprehensive guide to them. And it just started out like anything. I finally started compiling data for myself. I had no idea of using it for anything else, but to be consistent, I wanted some sort of database for myself. And then I kind of tend to be a completist. So I was like, well, I kind of need to find out what the rest of these are, even though I may never see them. Mm-hmm. And after 7 or 8 years of that, suddenly I realized there is enough here that it could be published as a book. So
that's awesome, especially considering that in 2000s, there was no, I mean, it wasn't like eBay and stuff was widely used, so
you were just starting to get a lot of this stuff to pop up on eBay in the late 90s and stuff. In fact, it was amazing how much showed up then. That it's gone now. Mm-hmm. But there are whole runs of stuff that now a lot of times eBay listers weren't good about it. You couldn't use it. But if they showed you the title page and they showed you that stuff, then I could use the information. I couldn't just accept their word on it because they often got things messed up. So
yeah. So how do you cross-reference it with what they would say? And
well, I would go use that. There weren't a lot of auctions you could get, but you could get dealer catalogs. I spent, back in the late 90s, probably several $1,000s on rare out-of-print reference books about individual pulps. People would put out books to this series or that series mm-hmm. or that genre. And some of them were pretty good, but at that time, you didn't have all that stuff on the internet, so some of these books were really expensive to get a hold of and rare. And so you just, from dozens of different sources, you piece together. At one point, I went up for several days to Kent State University and researched their pulp library, and they brought them out. And I sat there for, I don't know, I think it was 3 straight days, just going through anything that I didn't already have. So I wouldn't waste their time. I said, I only need these, I only need this. I wanted to see, I didn't want to put anything in the guide that I hadn't seen, either in person, or it was okay if it was online, as long as enough information was there that I could trust it.
At the Kent State Library, do they have it labeled as who artists are?
I said Kent State. Sorry. It should be Bowling Green.
Or Bowling
Green had the pulp library.
Do they have it labeled there, or they just have, like, pulps and bags?
You have to make a special appointment. They're not out where the public can get to them normally, so I had to make arrangements ahead of time and go there. And then they would bring out a box or two at a time. So,
but I mean, is the stuff labeled like these are the authors? No,
it's just a collection of pulps. And so
that's cool. That's close to us too, huh? Bowling Green.
Yeah,
it's convenient. I've noticed that locally there is a rich pulp history here.
Mainly because the original Pulp Con, it moved around a little bit, but it was primarily in Dayton for a lot of years. Mm-hmm. Then they renamed it Pulp Fest, and it moved to Pittsburgh. But so for many, and that was another source there too. I could go there and look. That's where I picked up some reference books and things. So.
Yeah, that had to be convenient because
I've still got at home, I think, 2 notebooks each about this thick of handwritten notes on every. The guide condenses it down. At home, I've got them all broken down issue by issue. And I did. I don't keep up on it anymore. But
you also get the information from the auctions that were sold.
Well, now a lot of stuff turns up at auction, especially Heritage. But there's some other auctions and things too. Now, it's like anything. You got to take those prices with a grain of salt because they get a lot of hype. They got a lot of money behind them. They're going to go for more than they're going to go at the average show. Mm-hmm. Or they tend to have super high-grade copies that you never see anywhere else. So you can't just go and say, well, that's the price because that's what the last one sold for. Well, that was the price that one person in the world was willing to pay that. That doesn't mean every copy after that's going to go for that amount. So,
right. Okay, so you mentioned that you already have the store before you started doing the pulp pricing.
Yeah, the store goes back to 1984. So.
Oh, wow.
So it's, 42 years old this year.
Was it primarily a comic book store?
No, my originally was intended to be more of a bookstore. That's my background. But there were comics coming in as well as books and paperbacks and things. And eventually, at least in this area, more people wanted comic books than wanted books. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You have to go with where the demand was, but I can't get out of the books. I still carry the books. So
that's good. I love the books. That's why I first came out here, was to look for all these paperback books, and we'll show the store later on. Everyone, it's awesome. Everything here seems very curated. Are you very specific with what you buy, or do you think it's just the clientele that you've built with kind of the more collectible items?
Well, that's where my interest is. We got out of the new comics about 4 years ago, and I just wanted to concentrate on vintage stuff. Mm-hmm. But it's got to be organized. I don't like, there are a lot of shops and stuff that are just like, well, you get to randomly go through boxes, and as much as I can, I try to keep it organized.
Yes, it's very organized here. Yeah, you don't see, for instance, for the paperbacks here, you have lots of fossil gold medals, just like stuff that's very specific that you don't, like if you walk into Half Price Books, they don't have a ton of fossil gold medals. Mm-hmm. They don't have a bunch of Dell map bags or any of that stuff. I was just curious if it was maybe the customers, because they're coming here to buy that stuff, is that who also sells it? Or is it because you buy like these whole collections? Mainly,
over the years, I bought whole collections. To be honest, I don't get very many collections of old paperbacks coming anymore, but I've just got so much. I've got probably 5,000 to 10,000 more to go through that are in storage. They go back. Some of them were acquired 40 years ago. So
yeah, that's good news for me.
But it's running out. You just don't get this stuff walking in anymore.
Oh, that's sad. But people don't really bring pulps in either, do they?
Pulps are very scarce. comics still come in. You get comic collection come in almost on a weekly basis of some sort. But yeah, pulps we've never had a huge amount of pulps. People think, oh, I must have a big collection because I wrote the pulp guide. No, it's hard to get, and there's not a lot that come in. But the guide wasn't because I liked pulps better than this other stuff. It's because there wasn't any other information available. So I don't like there being a gap in information.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's good that you're writing the price.
There was even
guide if you're very
paperback
precise.
guides. There were several of those over the years, but never any. And it's not just prices. I don't even care about the prices in it that much. But in fact, there was a lot of controversy. A lot of the old pulp guys didn't want a pulp guide out. They didn't want people to be aware of that. But if I have the information, I can't see withholding it. But to me, what's more important is, what's in the pulps, the famous covers, first appearances, key authors, things like that. So
I know. I love on the backs of the ones that you have, you write the pseudonyms. You do it on the paperbacks too. You write the pseudonyms of the authors and the if there was a artist of note on the back cover, and you write what condition it's in. It's very thorough. You're very thorough story.
Yeah, it takes a long time to do it, but I put the information I would want on them. So.
It's good, and you know what? It's not like it's you're charging extra for it either. Like the prices are good too. I was curious as far as the pulp guide goes. All of those titles in there, is that all of the pulp titles that existed, or are they still finding more? They're still discovering more.
That's probably all of what are officially considered pulps. Now, there may not be every last issue. There's occasionally they'll turn up and there was another one at the end of the run we didn't know about. Mm-hmm. For the most part, the classic pulps are known. There's a lot of, as you see the thing says, and related magazines. There's a lot of other magazines out there there's a whole bunch of, they're kind of more magazine format, but they're more like girly publications. In the 30s, these were the equivalent of Playboys way before they were Playboys, and they had fiction stories in them and kind of, exotic covers and things like that, tamed by today's standards. There's still a bunch of those turning up because a lot of times they were published under various names. They would change them. Sometimes they didn't have permission to publish this. They would steal it from other stuff, wrap it in a new cover. So those are still turning up, but there are still some pulp issues. There was trying to think, is it a Cabaret Stories was an oddball pulp. And when I was originally putting the one together, there was 2 issues turned up at the end of the run that previously we didn't know exist. One of them I got, and then there was one that found after that. So when they're that rare, comics have all been found except for maybe promotional items put up by corporations or something. But pulps, there is still some stuff to be found, and there's still issues that we don't know how many issues. The major runs we do, but there are some oddball pulps that like here's a Western pulp. It looks like it had 12 issues, but there's a weird gap in the middle. We don't know if that was supposed to be that way or whether we're missing one we haven't found yet.
Yeah.
So, and that was the other thing with pulps too. The sequencing and numbering is a nightmare. They were inconsistent. They would change. They would get errors in their numbering system. All that had to be figured out over time. So, because you could spend a lifetime looking for an issue that you found out doesn't exist just because they misnumbered.
Right. There's no number 40.
Right.
I think a lot of this came out during World War II also, and I'm sure that had many complications.
The original pulps, they consider the first official pulp in the 1890s, actually. The golden age of pulps is the 30s. And then by the mid-50s, they were pretty much gone. So
replaced by the paperback.
People say the pulps were gone. They didn't really go. They just moved it into a format that seemed more popular and was cheaper to produce, which was the paperback.
You kind of touched on it, that what exactly decides what a pulp is, because there are magazines. Like over there in the section, you have the train magazines. Is that a pulp, or is it?
Which one?
They're called like
the railroad.
Yeah, the railroad
story.
Yeah,
that's a pulp. Yeah, you still won't get people to agree on it, and they get sometimes kind of heated over what the definition of a pulp is.
Yeah.
The official designation has to do with how it was made, the kind of paper used. Also, pulps generally are fiction oriented. So a nonfiction magazine generally isn't considered a pulp. So all those traditional ones with the overhang and stuff, there's no doubt those are pulps. Then you get into debate. I consider the bed sheets, which are the large format. You see some of the early Amazing Stories were in that as pulps, but some of them don't because, they're square bound and they don't. And then you've got like some of the magazines I was talking about that were stapled, like some of the more, we'd call them like the girly magazines or early men's magazines. They're kind of pulp adjacent, but they still have a lot of the fiction. The pulp authors are in them, but yeah, pulps generally, fiction is what. So a Life magazine or a McCall's or something would never be considered a pulp. They call those the slicks because they have the better paper, better covers.
When you say the pulp adjacent, are those in the price guide?
I put as many of them as I could. Yeah, anything that pulp people would have an interest in, because some of those they like them because of the covers. Sometimes it's the same artist, and sometimes the same authors would cross over into them. So they're all kind of lumped in there to be, better to be. And the digest, a lot of the pulp collectors really don't consider those pulps, but like the Shadow at a certain pulp and Doc Savvy's at a certain point become digest formats.
And the Weird Tales the last year.
Weird Tales. Weird Tales went back and forth. The first 2 issues were in pulp format. Then it went to that oversized bed sheet in the mid-1920s. Then it went back to pulp, and then eventually becomes a digest.
Do you think that all of the pulps are found? Do you think that they are all in collectors' hands? Or do you think there's still there's an attic up there with...
There's still probably a fair amount of stuff out there. How many important collections are out there, I don't know, because pulps, even more than comics, if they're not stored properly, as you know, they don't hold up very well. So if they're in a hot Ohio attic, they may be up there, but they're probably not too useful after all this time. But it just depends. I found stuff that is surprisingly good shape. So we had some Weird Tales come in, 4 or 5 years ago, about 30 of them. I thought they were reprints when she brought them in, because I go, okay, these are some reprints I'm not familiar with. I mean, they were bone white. They were almost perfect. It's the only time I've ever put a grade of 9 on a pulp. So,
wow.
So they are out there.
That's incredible. Do you know how they were stored?
No, I'm not sure. They actually were the remnants of a collection that turned up back in the, can't remember if it was the 70s or early 80s in this area. And apparently there were hundreds of them in that condition. And they'd sold them off, and they'd forgotten they had this box tucked somewhere, and when they went to move, and she found another box of them, about 30 of them or so. But actually, the Dayton area is famous because 2 high-grade collections both turned up in this area, which Ohio is not known for high-grade anything because of the humidity and the heat. But 2 of the highest-graded pulp collections ever found came out of Dayton back in the late 70s. One's the Strasser collection, which is one of only 2 official pedigrees that CGC has given to pulps. And the other was this one, which there's a lot less information known about. But I know of people who bought from both collections at the time, which is where I get some of my information from. So,
when you say pedigrees, that means it only has one owner, right?
Technically, a pedigree should have been the original owner who bought them off the stands or who bought them at the time. They're beginning to fudge that definition a little bit.
I would imagine that they would.
Yeah, because
they would stop existing.
Well, in comics, you've got 3 dozen pedigrees. With pulps, you had 2. They're now calling the collection that's up for sale now at auction a pedigree, but it's not. It's a gentleman who put together this collection from all sorts of sources. Now, he wanted the highest of the highest grade, so it's a phenomenal collection, which is how it probably should be called, but they've given it a pedigree distinction, and it'll be the only pedigree that isn't original owner.
Yeah, I saw some people arguing about that on the internet.
Yeah. I mean, it shouldn't affect the collectability or the interest in them, and it should get a designation. In the past, they used to call those such a collection, so-and-so collection, but in fact, in some cases, a collection could be better than a pedigree, because if somebody's adamant about getting the best of the best, he's put all kinds of pedigrees together as well as other high-grade copies. So, so it shouldn't be a hit on the idea of a collection, but a pedigree used to have a very specific meaning. So,
and it bumps the value up, the monetary value?
It has historically, although since CGC came along in comics, that kind of took away. You still have a handful of pedigrees that bring a premium, just, the Mile High collection and stuff. But now that they're grading them, the grade kind of supersedes that. It's either a 9.0 or it isn't. And people, especially on the lesser pedigrees, they find it interesting, but they may not pay a big premium beyond. It used to be that if you bought a pedigree, you were assuming you were getting the best, but now CGC tells you, well, this one's better than this one and better than this one. So
those are your... I know you don't have to talk about it if you don't want, but I was just curious how you feel about the CGC existing, as you are someone who prices them yourself.
Well, especially we can talk about, since they started getting into the pulps, again, there was a lot of resistance to that. I don't care too much. I mean, I can understand. I don't see the point of grading a lower grade reading copy pulp. I mean, you can if you want to. I can kind of understand why you'd want to do it with the really high grades. I mean, you're not going to want to read this copy, and it does give it some protection and keep it from, getting dinged up and the corners bent and stuff like that. So, I've never been, too concerned about it one way or the other. I mean, I don't understand some grading of lower grade stuff, unless it's really rare.
Yeah.
But that, it's up to anybody. It's not like they can't be broken out if somebody really doesn't. I have a couple of customers that will break them out. They prefer them in the monoliths to the slabs. So
I also see that on the internet. Yes, breaking out comics.
And actually, when it first started, it was kind of a good idea. It was a way of, I don't always agree with their grading, but at least you kind of knew what you were getting if you were going mail order. And it was inexpensive. I think when CGC started out, it was, $15, $20 to have something graded. Now it can get into hundreds or thousands of dollars because on high-end stuff, it's a percentage, and so it's very much more expensive now. But when it started out, it was kind of a nice way of getting some security, especially for the mail order market.
Okay, so if people want to pick up the Bookery's Guide to Pulps, where is it available?
It can be ordered directly. The gentleman here that published it for me and did the introduction, Ed Hulse, he has a muraniapress.com. It can be ordered directly from him, and he's got a lot of other pulp-related books. Or it can also be ordered. It's available on Amazon. So either way.
Excellent. Yeah. Ed Hulse does I have two big art books by him. I think the Art of Pulps and the Art of Pulp Fiction that IDW put out.
Right.
Those are beautiful. Those are beautiful books, man.
That probably had more... Those books had more to do with getting fresh people interested in pulps than probably anything else out there. So they really did have a lot of impact when especially comic people and other people begin to realize, wow, the covers of these are, I mean, if you're a cover person, pulps kind of blow comics out of the water. I mean, if you're just interested in like wild exploitative covers, plus you get the full painted covers, they're definitely a step beyond what's in comic books and for paperbacks, even for that matter. So
yeah, they are beautiful. So I thought we would take a look around the store, a tour around the store. If you could show us the store, that'd be awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Here we are, the Bookery. So how long did you say that you'd been in business?
We're coming up on 42 years now.
All at the same location?
No, all in Fairborn. We originally started off in a little small side road, then moved over to Broad Street for years, then over to here.
Excellent. So can you show us, maybe we'll start with the stuff on the wall there? Some of the more higher end pulp stuff on the wall.
I don't know. Of course, what we have in stock varies from week to week and whatever collections you get, but just a handful of variety we have now. There's not one of the most expensive ones, but probably one of the scarcer ones. That's a title you just don't see. Trying to think of.
How about do you have one of the spices up there?
Actually I do. I've got this one. It's missing the back cover, but that's one of the actually more famous spices.
Yeah.
You can see it. Expensive even without a back cover. One sold at auction recently for 20-some thousand. So.
Whoa, 20,000, huh?
Yeah.
What condition was that in?
That was in pretty decent. I can't remember, like an 8.0 or something maybe.
Do they ever have the pulps come in at 10s, like perfect, like this is untouched?
No, they've given this one collection that we mentioned earlier, 9.6 they've given, which I don't know. I would never go probably above a 9 on the pulp. That's me.
Right. So how about this stuff here in the case? I've always wanted to, that ghost stories is.
Yeah, see, this is pretty early. It's almost 100 years old. That's 1928.
Do the more offbeat pulps still have the famous authors in them?
It depends. Ghost stories didn't have a lot of big name authors in it. Depends on the companies and what they were. There's one that people don't realize that before Marvel did comics, they were into pulps. That is a Marvel pulp.
Oh, nice.
The same publisher.
Yeah, didn't he make Ben's Adventure magazines too? What was his name?
Martin Goodman.
Yeah, yep.
He may have eventually.
Yeah, I think he did.
He did, Pulps, and then there's the kind of the cover that a lot of the pulp collectors like.
Yeah, that's very classic. Nick Carter. I was very surprised to find out how far back Nick Carter went.
Yeah, Nick Carter's it started out as a dime novel and then it became a pulp, and then they used the name in the 60s on paperbacks as a super spy, completely unrelated to previous detective pulps.
Yeah, I think I have a radio drama record where Nick Carter's a spy.
Yeah, the spy paperback. They sold millions of copies. It was just hugely popular for a while, kind of jumping on the James Bond craze. And
yeah. So the Scarlet Adventures here, is this a magazine? Because it's larger than a pulp.
I consider it a pulp, but there's an example, see, of the what they call the bed sheet size. This is a standard pulp size here, and then that's the larger format.
There we go. Yeah.
Some of the amazing stories are that size. And
so the argument is that even if it has nonfiction in it, they still consider it a pulp if it's the same size and the same paper and the.
There can be some nonfiction, but generally pulps should be fiction oriented. They'll have article, like almost all the science fiction pulps have a science article tucked in them somewhere or something.
All right, let's look at some of these comics down here. Some of the comics on the wall.
Yeah, and that's mostly collections that have come in the last month or so. Now that wall varies all the time. So.
Yeah, I'm always surprised to see how much it changes every time I come in here, because you don't sell online.
No. In fact, there really isn't much. Once we put out a collection, they hit it pretty hard, so there's really no reason to be doing online. Plus, I always like the idea of somebody being able to come into the store and seeing older stuff. If you do online, then there's not going to be anything here in the shops.
Right. No, yeah, I
won't
agree.
say I would never do online again, but, if it gets to the point where I have to. But right now, we're selling through. Now, I keep the prices lower because of that. If I were going to sell online, I'd actually have to raise the prices.
Oh, yeah, for the fees,
cost.
yeah.
So here we can keep the prices down. A lot of people buy them here, and then they themselves may sell them online, which is fine.
Yeah, do you have a lot of people come in from out of town specifically to come here?
Yeah, especially during the summers. That's our big dealer and travel time. I mean, we have a solid group of locals, but a lot of our bigger stuff is sold to out-of-town customers. And that's actually where we sell the pulps and the paperbacks more than the local markets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they are dealers themselves, aren't they?
Some of them are dealers, some of them are collectors. So, yeah. But yeah, in Ohio, prices are cheap enough that the dealers can take them back to New York or Los Angeles and generally sell them for higher prices. So.
Mm-hmm. So local only, and you don't go to any of the festivals. You don't go to like the.
I don't set up anymore.
L.A. or
shows.
Chicago.
I haven't done that for about 15 or 20 years. I'll pop in now and then to some of the local shows that walk around, but I don't set up with a table there. Again, it's kind of got to the point after 40 years. I couldn't have done this 20 years ago, but now we have such a high percentage of sell through that I don't see the advantage of packing it up, taking it 50 miles away at a show when it's going to sell here anyway. So.
Well, I appreciate that, but I'm local. So look at these. Let's look at these beautiful paperbacks you got behind you there. So these here are more collectibles. Is that why they're separated from the other paperbacks?
Yeah, generally. I mean, some of them aren't super expensive. They're maybe $20 and up, but then some of them get up there.
That's what I like about paperbacks is even when they're kind of rare, they're still affordable. There's
they're starting to move a little bit. But
is there $1,000 paperbacks?
There's a few out there. Yeah, I don't have one at the time, but
Creature from the Black Lagoon. I think that original paperback.
The British one that's the British one. Yeah, that goes for a lot of money. This one, which is not even early, this is from the 80s,
mm-hmm.
but that's one of the more expensive paperbacks out there.
Yeah,
it's considered the first cyberpunk novel. I think this one's got 400 on that right now.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I think I might have looked at that once. And then
this one, what makes this one special is you're looking at a dust jacket on a pulp. The interior art underneath that jacket is completely different.
Oh, really? Is it a hardcover?
No, it's a paperback. It was an experiment. There aren't a lot of dust jackets, but there are a few paperbacks that tried that. What they did here is the other art is very sedate, classical art. And at some point they decided, let's see if we can raunch this up a bit and sell some more copies. So that one's got $225 on it, but with a regular copy might be $20 if it didn't have the jacket. Which is one of the weird little things of paperback history where there's a handful of those out there that they did.
Yeah, that's
It was
cool.
cheaper than reprinting the whole book, so they just printed up a new jacket and slipped it on the copies they already had in the warehouse.
They butcher covered it. There we are. There's the front of the store. So you got, this is the new arrivals here, the new comics.
There isn't anything necessarily special about them. It can be, but it's just the latest stuff we've got in. We have customers that come in every week. They don't want to have to go through all the boxes every time they come in. They want to know, what did you get in that I haven't seen already? So for a couple of weeks, we'll put them up here and then eventually work them into the boxes.
Then we got our paperbacks here. It's my favorite section. For a while, you always change this around because you had it at first, you had this side where you had it by the cover artist. I was like, that's so cool.
Yeah. Didn't seem to, most of them didn't care too much about the cover artist other than Frazetta. So, And I haven't decided yet. I may work it back into the more the genres too, where the detective and the science fiction stuff are separated out.
So you have them by authors here right now, right?
I've got it by author for now. I don't know if I'll keep that way, but the neat thing about the author is I can put all the pseudonyms in one place, whereas if I don't have the dividers, then you either have to know them or you don't know them.
Yep. No, as soon as I saw that you had done it this way, that was my first thought too. I was like, oh, now all the pseudonyms are going to be.
Like one of them there, Evan Hunter was equally famous as Evan Hunter and as Ed McBain.
Mm-hmm.
And neither one of them were his real name, which was Salvador Lombino. But
why would you change your name if your name was Salvador Lombino?
And he had other pseudonyms. Some of these guys had a dozen different names they wrote under. In case of Hunter, his McBain novels were his police things. Under Evan Hunter, it was more his literary work.
Mm-hmm. The 87.
Then he wrote adult novels under obviously various other pseudonyms.
So you have this. This is still in section, right? Because this is the sci-fi here.
No, right now it's all by author, but as I work things in, I may go back to doing the genre breakdowns. I did separate out the ace doubles just because which author do you put them under?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is confusing. I love it. Oh, you still have the sleeves separated.
Yeah, that's kind of broken out because most of his authors aren't even real names. They're almost all pseudonyms. So.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to know to look them up under the author.
So you got the Pulps. You got the Pulps here. It's big fat. Yeah. This always makes me laugh. I'm like, this has got to be so uncomfortable to read. These giant Pulps. So here's all the Pulps right here.
Yeah, see, there's another classic science fiction one.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
particularly rare, but...
Yeah, that is cool. Yeah, and then you got these. Where do you get these movie posters from?
Oh, they're harder to get. In fact, the section I've got 10,000 lobby cards yet to put out. So you're just looking at a tiny fraction of them.
You sell a lot of these lobby cards?
Not a lot, no. Again, out of town. A lot of people don't know what they are or have forgotten about these old movies. So.
My wife loves them. She always buys one or two when we come in.
The nice thing about lobby cards is they kept that format from the silent days, like 1910s, clear up into the early 90s. So to have something that consistently is kind of neat.
Oh, you got is that painting up there? I don't think I've ever seen a painting in here before.
That's an old art print from 1895. And I just thought it was kind of neat.
Did somebody
it
bring
had a bit of a pulpish look to it, even though it's not technically related.
Did somebody bring that in?
I think I won that at an auction.
You see what he did, everyone? He put that tape somewhere else. I always say that in videos when I'm getting the Pulps out. Like, these aren't comics. That tape touches that, it's over.
Yeah, so there's two widely different conditions. Now, you'll get disagreements on grading on Pulps, too. I grade them pretty much the way I would comic books, which is also the way I grade paperbacks, posters. Mm-hmm. To me, if you've got a 10-point scale, I don't know how to explain it, but in my mind, I can see how that would divide out. You know, if you got 10 points, you know, this one's not a 9, but it's better than this. After 40 years, you get to the point where you can do it pretty quick. Now, this is your kind of typical beat-up, low-grade pulp. I grade it as a 1, but it is complete. That's a rare pulp. In high grade, that would be worth several $100s, but as is, it's a reading copy.
So it's clipped here?
Well, you've got tape stains. It's probably they've trimmed the edge off at some point. It's just lots of creases. I mean, some places, and CGC might grade it at 2.0. I give it a 1.0 because they'll give it a 2 if it's complete, but and this one's actually going to be better than the standard pulp. I graded this one a 6.0, fine, same as you would a comic, which in pulps is really kind of a high grade. It's not so much that you grade them different, it's just that you're not going to get a lot of 8 and 9 graded pulps. But there's nothing horribly wrong with it. It's, you know, it's got the overhang, it's pretty much intact, it's bright.
What about the
complete spines are very important in pulp grading, but you've got your standard little minor creases and wear and tear on it.
Do you know why they would trim them?
A lot of times in the early days, a lot of people who had pulps would trim off because you can see it's kind of a pain if you're trying to read the pulp, or if you wanted to keep it on your bookshelf, it's just going to get chipped up and beat up anyway, so they'd trim them off. It wasn't done like comics where they're trying to deceive someone. A lot of times when comics are trimmed, it was trying to make it look a better grade. This was just a practical aspect of if you wanted to put it on a bookshelf. So trimming hurts a pulp, but not like it would a comic book.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll go up to a 4.0, maybe even a 5.0 on a trimmed pulp if it's otherwise really nice. As long as what we're talking about is just the overhang is trimmed. Now, you get some where they actually trim the pulp off. That's a big defect. So,
Why did they have the overhang in the first place?
just a cheap way of producing it. They didn't want to pay the pulps were done so cheaply that extra tenth of a cent it would cost to send it through a cutter a second time and trim the pulp was more than they wanted to put into it.
Wow.
So they would just, it's close enough. They would just slap it on there because these were expected to be read once and then tossed.
Yeah.
And most pulps, that's what happened. Science fiction pulps are actually the most common pulp. People think, oh, amazing stories. They're actually available because science fiction people kept everything. They kept all their paperbacks, all their hardbacks, whereas the average mystery reader, that was fun. And then they were done with it.
Mm-hmm. What about the author and the artist?
I don't know if this one, this one's got this one has pretty good. Now there's L. Ron Hubbard. A lot of people know him. He did Pulps before he got into the Scientology thing.
Yeah.
Edmund Hamilton, long famous science fiction author, Jack Vance. So there's a Henry Kuttner. So those are all big names in science fiction.
So
Earl Berge is one of the most famous pulp cover artists. So. This one, probably not. You're getting back really early, so... I mean, if you're really into pulps, you might know who George Allen Moffat is, but otherwise it's not going to be publicly well-known names in these. But that came out in 1931, so...
So when you're going through these, and like I said, you always put the pseudonyms on the back. Do you look up every one of these authors as you're going through them?
Generally I'll write the major authors. Years and years ago, I put together a list of pseudonyms there was a couple of books came out back in probably the 70s on pseudonyms, and then I've added to them over the years so I can keep track of them.
Yeah. All right. So I think we're going to call it a day. I just want to say thanks so much for talking to me and letting me come in during the closed hours.
Hope you get some useful information out of it.
Oh, we'll get a lot. I think it's, you taught us a lot here. And hopefully, everyone go check out the book. Just came out last month, right?
Came out in December, but you ordered as early as December,
Yeah.
So a little over a month ago.
So if you're interested in the pulp fiction world, you want to get started, I think it's a very valuable place. So you don't get
Pulse, who wrote the introduction, gives you a nice overview of the history, and he even talks about how they were printed and put together. So it's a useful article. So
I thought there's this kind of funny joke at the beginning where he was saying like, this is what pulp is, and this is that, and this is that. And then at the very end, he's like, but most people just think that it's something in orange juice. He's just like, yeah, we make this big deal. He made this big deal about it being this particular thing. And then he's like, but come on, guys. It's just us.
That's the most difficult thing in getting pulp collections is if I advertise for comics, people know what I'm talking about. If I say, hey, we buy old pulp magazines, they don't have a clue.
Right.
To them, they're just old magazines or old. So it's always made it difficult for to get estates and the public to know what they've got. Comics, everybody probably overvalues comics. So people will keep the just worthless stuff saying, oh, I must have a fortune tucked here. But if they find a bunch of old pulps in their attic, they're still throwing them away in this day and age.
Yeah.
We don't know what those are. So.
Oh, it's heartbreaking.
And it's they're still disappearing.
So go look in your attics, people. Go look in Grandma's attic. Find the pulps. That's it. Thank you so much, Tim.
Oh, thank you.